Welcome to Saturday Morning Retro, episode 31, podcast focused on retro gaming and giving ourselves an excuse to play our collection. Before we start the show, we want to thank all of our wonderful fans who have supported us. And if you want to show support for the Rated G Network, you can find us on Patreon at patreon.com/RatedG for gamers. For as little as $1, you can help support us. You can also find us on YouTube, Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook at Rated G for Gamers. And finally, please rate and review us on iTunes and Spotify. We appreciate all the love. I'm your host, Dave Bertino, and this is my co-host, Dan, the podcaster formerly known as Classic Robinson.
Salutations, Dave.
Oh, there it is. There it is. Yeah, that's your thing now, Dan. That's your thing now.
It's a thing. Oh, it's been a thing for like 4 episodes already.
Well, I think we can codify it. It is now a Dan staple to start every show with salutations. And I love that.
And only my favorite show to do, and it's just Saturday Morning Retro. Funny enough, I use salutations. Like, I actually use it in real life. I do tell people salutations. There's certain people I've been saying that to for like the last 20 years. It's
a very underrated word. All right.
It is.
It's good.
It is. Well, I say underused word.
That too. Underrated and underused. We got to make a campaign, Dan. Bring back salutations.
All right, Dave. We have an awesome show this month. Coming up, we're going to talk about Kirby 64 and the Crystal Shards. Mm-hmm. And Dave is going to tell me all about The Legend of Zelda Oracle of Ages, because this is a game I have not played.
Oh, you're in for a treat.
But before we get into any of that, we always start Saturday Morning Retro with this time in gaming history. And I thought, since the new Tears of the Kingdom game, it's coming out next month. Well, I think we're like 2 weeks out for it right now.
It's coming out early May 12th. Yeah,
it's coming up May 12th. It wasn't the only game to come out. This is like a theme for Zelda, right? Because Breath of the Wild came out in March of 2017 at this point, 2016, something like that.
It came out with the launch of the system, March 6th.
So in Japan, April 27th, back in 2000, The Legend of Zelda Majora's Mask was released.
Wow, this is it. It's Zelda all over the place, Dan. I love it.
It's just Zelda all over the place. So it didn't come out. It didn't come out in the U.S. or in the U.K. just yet, but in Japan it came out in April, April 27th.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. This
is like a thing for Zelda, right? Around Christmas 2. Zelda always releases at Christmas 2.
Yeah, they get a little. They have unconventional release dates. This is interesting. I think this is the shortest development time, maybe short of Zelda 1 to Zelda 2. I don't know which one is longer, but they're pretty close. So right after Ocarina came out, which is beloved by fans, and it was beloved at the time, still is to this day, regarded as, in some circles, the best ever.
Well, I think even the older heads who said this was like the best Zelda game of all time kind of concede that it is now the second best Zelda game of all time behind Breath of the Wild.
Well, Breath of the Wild is amazing, yeah, and I definitely think that's the best one too. But since it did so well, and I think maybe they were already kind of planning to do something more with Zelda, and they took that engine and they hit the ground running, and within a year we got Majora's Mask, and it was crazy, really dark, right? It was the whole 3 days till the end of the world, and this giant demonic moon is coming down to destroy Hyrule, and you had to save the Earth in 3 days. Not technically 3 days. I mean, kind of 3 days. It had a weird time mechanic, so you had to do what you wanted to do within that time period.
So I'll tell you just real quick a quick search. So if I got some of these dates mixed up, excuse me, because I'm doing a quick search as Dave was talking. Ocarina of Time in the States came out in the fall of '98. And Majora's Mask came out in the fall of 2000. It's about a 2-year difference.
Sure.
And N64 time. I'm keep talking. I just wanted to say that I'm going to look up the original Zelda and Zelda 2.
Sure. I want to say it was 86 and 80, late 87, 88 maybe for the sequel.
But, North American release 87, right. August. of '87
Right.
for the first one, and Zelda 2 came out in
I want to say 88, right?
Yep, December 1st, '88.
Okay.
According to Wikipedia.
It was a year.
So that was the
year and a couple months for the.
So that was the quickest turnaround time for Zelda on NES,
right. So
and
this would be, I think, the second. Yeah, the second, because the next Zelda was 91, I think. The next big Zelda, and then I know we got the Game Boy Zelda, which kind of leads into the game that I've been playing, the Link's Awakening, right? Came out on the Game Boy, but it was a much smaller game on portable hardware and all that. It was a new entry in the Zelda franchise, though, and definitely really weird, much like Majora's Mask was. But crazy, yeah, and the whole conceit with the 3 days, yeah. So you had to complete, your task was in a certain amount of time, and then everything reset. Some stuff would carry over, I think, like certain completed quests and whatever else would be done. But you do go back to the kind of starting town of Termina or whatever. You plop down and you got to do it all over again. And, there was all the different masks you could get in the game, right? There was I don't want to say hundreds, but there was at least 20 or 30 different masks that would all imbue different powers to you. And that's where a lot of the game mechanics came from. Super cool.
So I never played Majora's Mask.
Oh, it's wild. It's very dark.
Well, I mean, I played a little bit when the new one, the remake came out on the 3DS. Yeah, but tell me, was this the first game that didn't have Zelda in it at all, right? Zelda wasn't in it at all, was she?
Well, no, the first one not to have Zelda was Link's Awakening.
Link's Awakening. Well, okay. Well, the first mainline one, not the handheld games.
It was in the Super Nintendo one. After the Super Nintendo one was the N64 one. So, in that case, yeah, I don't think Zelda was in this at all. I believe that Ganon is not the final boss. So
no,
other than the Game Boy one, this would be the second time that Ganon's not the boss or the final big baddie, and we'll kind of see that throughout some of the Zelda games, right? The Game Boy Advance Minish Cap didn't have Ganon in it. I think some of the DS ones, I think maybe Phantom Hourglass and maybe Spirit Tracks didn't have Ganon as the boss. The game that I picked doesn't have Ganon as the boss, which is interesting. So, and I think that's kind of cool that they can kind of switch it up a little bit and change the narrative around a little bit. So it's not always Link needs to save the princess, needs to beat Ganon, goes to all these temples. They can kind of mix it up a little bit and still have it be Zelda.
Yeah,
I think it's good stuff.
Well, before we turn this into the Zelda, morning retro.
Oh, I'm excited, man. Let's talk about Zelda.
I know, I can tell.
All week, all month, all year.
I could tell. Let's get into some of our gaming pickups of April. Mm-hmm. Okay. Now, I know you didn't have a lot of pickups this month.
Well, that's not true, Dan. I got a ton of pickups, and I would love to tell you about them. Can I go first?
Go first. Tell me about this big haul you got.
Whew. All right, ready?
Yeah.
I picked up Resident Evil for the PS5, and that's it. It's not about the quantity, Dan.
Resident Evil 4 remake. To be
yes, Resident Evil 4 remake for the PS5. Yeah. It's not about the quantity, all right? Sometimes it's about the quality, and this game is through the roof. I've talked about it at length on the regular show, how I'm going through it and all that. I love it. It's definitely how you do a remake, I would say. And yeah.
Okay.
That's all I'll say.
Well, I will say this. I know if you listen to the regular show, at some point I did say I'm definitely going to pick it up because I wanted, Dave told me you could pay to win essentially. You could get unlimited ammo or unlimited, rocket launchers or something along those lines.
Yeah, they have tickets. You can help to aid yourself, or you can just play it in assisted mode, which is easy mode, and you'll be able to get through it just fine. So
I said I would get it, but I decided to put this back in my bargain bin list
Well,
because I did. I did order Jedi Survivor, which according to Amazon should be here before 10 o'clock tomorrow.
Okay.
Or by 10 o'clock tomorrow. And then we got Zelda coming up in 2 weeks.
Yeah.
And then in June we got Final Fantasy 16 and Street Fighter 6.
Yep.
Right. So and then Pikmin comes out in July, I think. Yeah, the new Pikmin 4 comes out in July. So there's just a lot of games that I'm more interested in, and I want to save my money because I know I'm not going to put as many hours as Dave has put into Resident Evil 4 remake, and it just doesn't make any sense. So I will wait to pick this game up.
Are you still confident that this is not a big year for gaming?
Yes.
GTFO. I'm sorry. GTFO. What? We got Spider-Man coming up later this year. We got Redfall. We had Hi-Fi Rush earlier this year. And we have Starfield coming out later this year, among other games.
Well, you know what?
How is this not a big year?
Until those games are because you know what, Zelda just blows everything out of the water. We already said it's over. We're not going to do.
Yeah, that makes it a big year then.
You
that
pick
makes
5
it a big
games.
year.
We're just going to pick Zelda. That's it.
Well,
Zelda Tears of the Kingdom is the game of the year, 2023.
That doesn't make it any worse of a year. That makes it.
I didn't say it was a bad year. I didn't say it was a bad year.
You said it wasn't a great year for gaming.
I said it. I did not. Just because it's not great doesn't mean it's bad. It'll be a good year. It's a good year for gaming.
All of those games are 10 out of 10s. They're fantastic on the Dave scale.
All of them, Dave. All of them. Dave. All of them. All of them.
They're Hi-Fi Rush was amazing. The Resident Evil 4 remake was amazing. We're both in agreement off the bat that Zelda's going to be great. I have high confidence in Redfall.
Hi-Fi Rush was great.
Yeah.
But it wasn't a 10. Redfall's coming out.
I think so. I think it was 10 out of 10, and it was a stealth drop, too. They're like, hey, here's this new game from Tango Gameworks out of the blue. Amazing.
It was an amazing game, but definitely not a 10.
Okay, maybe it's a 9. Maybe it's a 9.
Hi-Fi Rush was definitely 8.5. I would say
at a minimum,
Redfall,
that's the floor.
Redfall definitely not 60 frames per second, only 30 frames, and we got to see how it holds up. I mean,
oh my god, whatever.
Okay,
nobody's gonna care when it comes out. They're just gonna play the game.
And then when Street Fighter 6 comes out, let's see if they actually have arcade mode in it this time.
They do. They have a whole like running around like New York City mode. It's great. You create your own character. Like they are not doing a Street Fighter 5 with this. Yeah. And even if 2 or 3 of those games were lemons, you still have so many other games that are either on the horizon or already out that are bangers.
No pun intended. It was a good year. It's a good year. God. I never said it wasn't going to be a good year. I never said it was going to be a bad year. Okay, let me just ask you this, and we can move on. What would make this a great year for gaming for you? What would you need to see? Historic year. What would make it a historic year? Sure. What would make it a historic year for you? So we get Zelda and Mario, just like we did the launch of the Switch, right? Zelda and Mario in the same year. First time that's happened since the ever, right? I think. Yeah. So we got to get Zelda and Mario. We got to get God of War, which obviously we're not going to get God of War or Uncharted. Something along those lines. Spider-Man could fit the bill. We'll wait and see. We haven't actually seen gameplay. Year, yeah. We haven't actually seen gameplay. We've seen a trailer. We've seen a cinematic trailer. You think it's going to be any less than Miles Morales or the OG Spider-Man? We'll see. We'll see. We'll see. I mean, Suicide Squad, I think the best thing that ever happened to this year is Suicide Squad being pushed to next year because it would have put the year down. That game wasn't going to make any headlines, any splashes this year. It was trash at a Dave scale already. That's right. I know we're getting we're definitely getting the thing from Bethesda, but Starfield. But that's a wait and see as well. I mean, we haven't really seen anything. We haven't seen anything of Starfield. We're hyping it just because of the developer. We're not hyping it because it's an amazing game. Okay, I'm gonna ask you again in November, and we're gonna see where we stand. Yeah, and we also don't know what's coming out in the fall, so let's wait and see what comes out in the fall. Out of all those games that I mentioned, if the ones that we're kind of unsure about, sure, Spider-Man could be good. Haven't seen anything. It could be good, not great. I have pretty good confidence it's going to be at least a good game. If it's bad, it'll probably be like a 7, and it'll just be like more of the same is what they're going to say about it. I would imagine Starfield, unless they fumble the bag, I think is going to be great.
It's going to be
How many worlds? How many worlds with something to do in it? Right? Is it going to be the same thing to do in every world? Right? They said like 1,000 worlds, over 1,000 worlds.
Right, right. Can you make each thing interesting and that it's not just cut and, copy paste like a No Man's Sky situation, right? Where it's all just like, well, this is the green version of the world, and it's like everything's exactly the same otherwise. Sure, agreed. Yeah. Agreed.
Final Fantasy 16. I don't know if I'm so hyped for that storyline, but I'm willing to. I love the fact that it's action is more action based than that turn.
It's gonna okay. May not be the game for you because I know you're kind of particular about the Final Fantasy stuff, but it's gonna do gangbusters and it's gonna be the best thing.
Oh yeah,
for Square Enix since Final Fantasy VII. I mean, this is bananas.
No, 100%. Yeah. I'm just saying we have a lot of questions.
Sure.
We have to see. We haven't seen. As a matter of fact, we're hyping stuff that we haven't even seen yet. We're hyping it just because of the IP and the developer. We're not hyping things because we've seen so much.
Look. I may have a first class ticket on the hype train. You're not wrong. You're not wrong. But I feel like the destination is going to be great, and the journey along the way is going to be even better. So,
I hope so.
Yeah, we'll see. We'll see.
All right. Now that we got that out of the way, let's get into my pickup.
Yeah, please.
Into my pickup.
Please.
All right, I'll fly through some of these really quickly. I did pick up this Game Gear game because, why not? I saw it was in great condition and was a good price. The Ren and Stimpy game. I didn't even know Ren and Stimpy came out on the Game Gear.
Oh, they came out on everything, and they were all not great.
Not great. Well, you know what? Well, for about less than $5, that was a great pickup.
That is the right price.
I did use my Lukey points and get a free Dreamcast game, Choo Choo Rocket. Right, I definitely this was on the list. This is a unique game, like a unique puzzle style game for for the Dreamcast for Sega. Sega team presents Choo Choo Rocket, so this is Sonic team. So the same team that made Sonic made this game for the Dreamcast.
Yep. It was a launch title or a launch download. I think it was weird. You were able to play this game in and around launch. I think 4-player action puzzler. Yeah, it's good stuff.
Well, that I leave to you, but you have to turn these lines so you can get I guess it's Choo Choo Rocket is sort of like the train. You have all these creatures that's walking around, running around, and you gotta get them into the exit before they get eaten. Right?
You gotta
an interesting.
Yeah, you gotta funnel the mice away. You gotta funnel the mice into your exit and funnel the cats away from your exit.
Yeah, well, looking at the back of the game, it's a cat and mouse chaos in space.
Yeah, yeah.
So, stuff. I've been secretly sort of picking up a lot of PS1 games, right? Like racing games and stuff. Because I'm not the biggest racing game fan, but I love. I guess I have more nostalgia for the old school racing games of the '90s. I go through, Cyberdeck. I don't even know what this is. This got actually Cyberdeck. Yeah, this got terrible this got terrible ratings. I did get Need for Speed Porsche Unleashed. Porsche Unleashed.
That's good. That's the 4th or 5th one, I think. Yeah.
I thought I had all of the Need for Speed games. Now I do. Now I have all of them. This was the only one I was missing. And I got Turbo Prop Racing, which is just it's pretty much F-Zero in water, from what I can tell, and it got good ratings at the time.
Okay.
60 frames per second on the OG PS1.
Wow, good stuff.
I did get the Deadliest Warrior Ancient Combat, right, for the PS3. A terrible fighting game with ancient warriors, Roman heroes, ninjas, captains, samurais.
Yeah, it was
an interesting game.
It was okay. Yeah.
And I'm gonna assume this is from because it says it's from Spike Games, but it's the same logo that was from Spike TV. Remember that?
Yeah.
So I think it's Spike TV. Maybe it's the same logo from Spike TV. Spike Games.
Huh.
I didn't even know this was a thing, but I got Gran Turismo 5 Prologue.
Right? Oh yeah.
So I didn't know they put out a prologue before the full the full Gran Turismo 5 game came out.
Yeah.
So found the Greatest Hits edition. Didn't really want the Greatest Hits edition, but it was the only one I had, so I picked that up. And I got a couple of PS2 games that get up there a little bit in price. I got Bloody Roar 3. I do have the second one. The first one I didn't buy because it's a lot of money. And this was a combo cart PS2, the King of Fighters 2000 and 2001.
Nice.
So I guess in the US they didn't sell them separately; they just came together in this combo pack. So that's good to know. So I got that. All right, Dave. I love this segment. This is one of my favorite segments to do. It is
on your favorite
on my
show.
favorite podcast. On my favorite podcast. Yeah. It's now we know why it's one of my favorite shows to do, because I have one of my favorite segments I like to go over. We rotate every other month. A top 3 and a triple R. This month we have a triple R where we pick a game that we want to recycle, remaster, remake, or recycle. Mm-hmm. Dave, what's your triple R this month?
Oh, Dan, you're gonna love this pick. I'm taking it to the squared circle, Dan. Under the hot lights.
Oh,
under the hot lights of the Cow Palace. All right, maybe not the Cow Palace, but whatever the cartoon equivalent of the Cow Palace would be. I love this game. I don't know if you played this game back in the day. Saturday Night Slammasters? Remember this game?
I do remember this game. I don't know if I really played a lot of it though. I got to take a look.
I came across. I'm gonna tell a quick little story about this. I came across this game with my friends Jason and James. We were at a Nathan's over on Route 112. There was a Nathan's that had an arcade attached to it, like a legit arcade, and it had a bunch of like cool games in there. You know, there was like your Mortal Kombat 3s, and they even had like arm wrestling champ game. I remember there lots of like beat 'em ups, lots of fighting games, and it's the first time we saw Saturday Night Slammasters, the 4-player head to head. Right, you could do. You could do a 1-on-1, or you could do like a 2-on-2 tag team. It was awesome. It was made by Capcom, right? It had Mike Hagar in it, which, my God, Mike Hagar needs to be in more fighting games, right? They always leave him out of Street Fighter, and I'm so upset that they're like, no, he's got to be in this game because he used to be a wrestler turned mayor of Metro City. Right? Like Zangief learned his moveset from Mike Hagar. That's like lore. So it's a wrestling game. It's great. And the only way to play this game is either via emulation or on the Super Nintendo or Sega Genesis. There's no other way to play this game. So I want this game move forward. You know, I want it put on modern hardware, and I want a remaster. Give me just a remaster with a couple of new quality of life features. Put it in online head-to-head mode, right? Do that. Bump up the resolution a little bit, clean up the graphics. You're good to go. The game is great. I love this game.
Oh wow,
so good.
This was released in arcades, Genesis, the Sega Genesis, the Super NES, and FM Towns Marty.
Oh Jesus. Yeah. Everybody, go to your attic, dust off your FM Towns Marty, pick up a copy of this game. You won't be
it was exclusive. It was exclusively in Japan, and it was released in the Japanese market exclusively back in 1993. It was the first 32-bit CD-based home video game system.
Yep.
Back in the day. I totally forgot this existed. The FM Towns Marty.
Yeah.
Who came up with that name?
I don't know. They also.
You know what? Well, I was gonna say, you know what? I want a remake of that. I'm changing the rules.
FM Towns Marty.
Yes, I want a remake of FM Towns Marty.
So, speaking of Slammasters, they did make a sequel, Japanese only. I don't think it ever came out of Japan, and they turned it into a straight fighting game. So they added They added 4 new characters, which are actually pretty cool characters, but they got rid of the whole wrestling thing. So it's just like a regular beat 'em up game. And it's like, it's cool, but it's definitely not Slammasters, all right? It's in the name, right? Slam Master. Got to take him to the mat.
Gotcha.
So, Yeah, no, I just want the first one. The first one's the good one.
Okay. Well, I want something that's near and dear to my heart back in the day.
Mm-hmm.
I pick a remake of NBA Jam. That's what I want.
We got a remake of NBA Jam.
Well, I want another remake. I want a second remake.
You want to move it forward again. Well,
yes.
Listen. I can't give you points on originality, but I can't say I also don't want a PS5 version or an Xbox Series X version of this.
Look, I want, obviously, NBA Jam, I don't know, was more of an arcadey basketball game. It actually was, at the time, all the sim basketball games kind of sucked. I mean, they're hard to go back to be honest. Like all those sim basketball games from
it
like
can
the
be
80s
a little light.
and early 90s.
Yeah.
This was like the best basketball game. Like at the time, it was like, you want to play a sim game or do you want to play NBA Jam? NBA Jam. Can't stand.
Of course.
Crazy, right? I want the 2-on-2 going back and forth. I want the he's on fire. I want all of that. Obviously, update the rosters, update the teams.
Yeah, put all the current players in there, right?
And I think it works better now. I think the NBA Jam format kind of works better now because we've highlighted in the last like 10 years. We've put more emphasis on the 3-ball, right? And NBA Jam. It was always kind of hard to keep up with, like, you're running and you're spinning and jumping in the sky on fire and dunking. And, I would always try to shoot threes. And I think they could do something fun and unique with having, the 3-ball.
Sure.
Just shooting, from full court, shooting over and being on fire and just hitting in, right?
Yeah.
I think you could do something interesting with that. I want another remake. I want remake number 2.
Okay. So what they actually did in the last one, which I thought was ingenious, is they put the president and vice president at the time, which was Bush and Cheney, into the game when they ended up putting it out, I believe.
Okay.
And because they're like public figures, so you can do that. And Cheney's steal stat was like 10, which I thought was great. So would you want like Biden and Kamala?
No.
On a team?
No.
Oh,
no.
Come on, why not?
No,
man in his early 80s, dunking on LeBron James.
I'll tell you why.
Oh, come on, that's amazing.
No. In this climate of such separation, politically, the country being separated, I think this could even hurt sales just by the idea of having this in there.
All right,
now,
so you also put Trump.
You want to have.
You can play both sides.
Oh, great!
Nobody's going
to buy the game.
What do you mean? You're going to get to dunk on whoever you want to dunk on, right? If you're a Democrat or a Republican, you have your team, you have your players.
Yeah. I think. Well, first, don't they have to give us the say for the likeness, right? Or no? Or they.
Because they're
public figures.
Because they're public figures. Yeah.
I would say, go old school, right? Like you put Clinton in there, you could put Reagan in there.
Oh my God,
I would do it that way, right? Just so you don't. I don't know. I feel like in this climate that we're in right now, I think people would boycott the game or it would just. I don't think it would be a good idea.
All right.
Maybe just go old school.
I got it. Washington versus Lincoln.
There you go. That works.
Wigs and coattails, baby.
That works. I'd rather you do that. You know what? Okay, if you go current events, if you do current, Obama would be the one that I think everybody would be like, okay, that makes sense because he actually plays basketball.
He does. Yeah.
Right. So, all right, that's what I want. NBA Jam remake number 2. That's what I want.
Okay.
All right, Dave, let's take a break. When we come back, we're going to dive deep into our backlog, and we're going to talk about Kirby 64 and the Crystal Shards and The Legend of Zelda Ocarina of Time. And we're back. All right, Dave, let's dive deep into our backlog and talk about Kirby 64, the Crystal Shards, and The Legend of Zelda Ocarina of Time. Let me go first. I really wanted to play this game, Kirby 64.
You love
and the
Kirby?
Crystal Shards. I do love Kirby. Well, I love Kirby now.
Mm-hmm.
I'll be honest. I'm not a big early Kirby fan, like the NES and the Game Boy games and the Super Nintendo game. Surprisingly, I'm not a fan of those games. Maybe I just wasn't in the mood to play those games at the time, right? I don't know. I do want to go back to them at some point, but you know, I really like the one thing that really excited me about playing, you know, Kirby 64. It was the idea of because I love all the current Kirby games. I wanted to see the game that sort of started it all, right? The 3D Kirby, but technically it wasn't 3D, and I'll get into all that in a second. But that's what really got me excited to play this game, and I wanted to play it, and I was excited when Nintendo brought it to the Nintendo Online system.
Right.
So this game came out originally for North America, June 26, 2000. This was made by HAL Laboratory, published by Nintendo. Came out on the original N64. It's considered a platformer, 3D platformer. And I played this on Nintendo Switch Online. But I did play it with the N64 controller, or as I call it, the N64 Joy-Con.
There you go.
I did. And I wanted to save, I did pick up, this is part of the pickups for the month, I did snag an N64 Joy-Con.
Nice.
When it came back in stock, because they've just been sold out. Every time they come out, they sell out so quickly. And I just don't understand why. I just don't understand why either they put out so little inventory or scalpers are still buying them. I don't get it why it's sold out. Right? The Genesis controller was sold out as well, but in the last like 5-6 months, it's just been available.
Well, I know why it's sold out. Yeah, it is all those things. The people want them. The combination of the scalpers still trying to flip them and make money, and somewhat low supply, which leads to the scalpers, right? So that kind of feeds into that. But what I want to know is how many people are actually using these controllers, because listen, this may be a controversial statement. I don't think it's controversial. That N64 controller does not hold up. It's weird. You can only use half the controller at a time.
At a time. You know what? It's for people who were, you know, it's people who nostalgia for it. Right? Like people, if you grew up with it,
I played Golden. I played the hell out of GoldenEye and Zelda and Mario with it, but
I held it wrong every time I held it wrong.
Oh, right? I think there's no way to hold it wrong. There's too many ways to hold it technically right.
You're supposed to hold it in the middle with your left hand, and I've been holding it like I would hold a regular controller and just reach over because I had big fingers. I reach over with my thumb for the thumbstick.
It depends on the type of game, though, right? Like Zelda, Mario.
Yeah, I guess so.
You should be in the middle. Yeah.
No, but I did play with the N64 controller to get the original, like to sort of get the feel of how I would have played it back in the day. I did not play this when it first came out, because around 2000 I was sort of out of gaming, sort of, right? So, but a little background on this. It was development began in September of 1997. It was shortly before Kirby's Dream Land 3 was released for the SNES. So before that game was even released for the Super Nintendo, they were working on this game. And this initially was developed for the 64 DD, the disc drive. When that actually didn't pan out, that didn't sell well, they sort of shift development from that to the cartridge, so you could just play regular on the N64. And up until a year before the release, the control configuration was all on the analog stick, but they quickly changed it straight to the D-pad, because this was more of a, you know, even though it was sort of 3D game, right? But you were still sort of side scrolling, so they kept it just with the D-pad. And this proved to be a smart move, because Space World 1999, the team settled on the D-pad configuration after a successful test with elementary school kids. They thought the kids actually preferred to play it. I guess they gave them a choice, and they preferred to play it with the D-pad instead of the stick.
Yeah,
I wonder if they still do that. I wonder if they do that now.
Well, I'm not surprised because like the kids were used to the D-pad with the Genesis, Super Nintendo, Nintendo. The analog stick was this new foreign thing, and no one knew how to use it. So
I know when I first got my N64, I would use the stick like I would try like you would do like an arcade stick. Like when you go to arcade, like you grip it and you like run around. Obviously, I can't palm it, but I would take my fingers and like sort of grip the stick and move around with it like I was playing in an arcade. And I was like, no, that's how it's supposed to be done. I guess I have to just use my thumb.
Yeah.
Right? Because nobody knew. I mean, listen, nobody knew at the time how to hold the N64 controller. And guess what?
Yeah.
20-something years later, we still don't. We still don't. Now, I keep dancing around the graphics. I know I say this was sort of its first foray into 3D. This was more of this was the first game in a series that featured 3D graphics.
Right.
But Kirby 64 was sort of considered, or as Miyamoto would say, a 2.5D platformer.
Yeah. It was like the Yoshi game, right? The Yoshi game was 2.5D too.
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct. Environments and characters were rendered in 3D computer graphics. It had amazing color, the best colors I've seen since the Yoshi game, right? I don't know I think the Yoshi game came out first, if I'm not mistaken. And again, I don't want to compare this because I want to sort of judge it on its own merit. But I do love that Yoshi game, and the colors just pop in this game. They're just amazing.
Okay.
The background is still, the background is didn't have moving backgrounds. However, I love when you're sort of in different levels where you're like moving. You're supposed to be like going in a circle, going around, and they have everything moving like you're walking up the spiral staircase, so to speak, and everything is like turning with it. I just love the way those levels looked amazing. I play games for story, and you know what? Not gonna lie, the story in Kirby 64 is just a normal story.
Yeah, can't be that big on story. I would imagine.
No, it was. I'm not gonna lie. When I first played it, popped it in, and I was just watching sort of the story bits. I was like, you gotta love the times, right? The story begins with sort of like dark matter invading a planet populated with like all these fairies, and like one of the fairies called Ribbon. She's escaping with the sacred crystal, because back in the day, everything was crystals. Even Power Rangers had crystals, Power Ranger crystals.
Crystals were big, man.
Crystals were big back in the 90s. Yeah. The dark matter sort of, chasing her. She drops it. The crystal shatters into different pieces and goes across the galaxy. Ribbon lands on the Pop Star, that lands in a world called Pop Star, in which she meets Kirby, who just automatically agrees to help her retrieve all the shards, all the different crystal shards, and defeat the dark matter. Okay. So he turns, he's automatically our hero. Along the way, they sort of get the help of this character Adeline, which was an artist, which we've never seen in another Kirby game since. King Deity's minion Waddle Dee. Sure. They all turn into monsters because the crystal shards with the dark matter turn them into monsters. You have to defeat them and sort of get them on your side on each level. I thought this was cool. There were two different endings in this game. So if you collected all the crystal shards in all the levels, then you would get to face the final boss in a different form, and the game turns into sort of like a shooter up, right? Where you defeat them, then you get the actual proper ending. So at the time, I thought that was cool. I don't think they did a lot of that back in the day.
Yeah, I mean, some games did, if you kind of, you do everything in the game, but it's nice to see in this early kind of 2D, 3D game for sure.
I know, but we get that now, right? Like with Batman, you get all the Riddler, you open up all the Riddler question marks, and then you get the actual,
and you get this like special thing. Yeah.
So I feel like we do a lot of that like now. They did that back in the day too, but in like a Kirby game, like a cutesy Nintendo Kirby game, I thought that was kind of unique.
Yeah.
In this game, Kirby does the same thing he does in all the games. He has, sort of, you can still sort of swallow enemies, absorb their powers. You absorb, just objects in the world and spit it out like it's bullets. right? So Kirby still does that. He can still fly and float and can't stay in the air for too long without, needing to panic, and he just sort of floats down, which actually this game is really shown from like a side perspective, right? Like they have different perspectives, but they don't just go straight left to right. They sort of go in an angle so you can see the 3D environment, which I thought was cool. It is kind of hard to sort of platform in that way, which kind of sucked when I was trying to get like extra stars and coins and stuff like that. And it's like sort of the camera angle is sort of in a side view, but the game is still enjoyable. I still liked it. The Kirby's friends, at one point, all the friends that you have in the game were supposed to be playable characters, but along development, they canceled that and they became sort of like assist characters in certain levels. Like King Deity, because he has the mallet, you can, like, there's one level where you have to jump on his back. And now you're controlling King Deity and Kirby, and he has to like use the mallet to get through different walls and different sections.
Oh, see, I was going to ask what the unique mechanic was to this one, because they always kind of like put something new in there, right? I guess this is kind of the draw for it.
Yeah. I mean, again, they have like the hub world that's made like a story, like a child storybook. It's told in that way. And after each level, you sort of have a mini game where they sort of have like a picnic blanket out, and everyone's taking a picnic, and they have all these goodies around, and you have to use Kirby because he's just turning side by side, and you have to time it right to do a jump. And if you land on a specific item, you actually, you get to use that power up or coin. So I thought that was cool. I've got frustrating sometimes when he's turning and I time it right, but then I overjump and then you jump to the other side of the picnic blanket where there's nothing, which is annoying. And I wish I just jumped to the left. Now it's always just food.
Do you think that's a fault of the technology at the time, or the kind of earliness of the technology, or is it more just like bad game programming? Is it something you think they could have solved at the time?
I think they could have solved this. I mean, I will say one of my biggest negatives about the game is the movement can feel a little floaty, right? And it's a combination of the movement feeling a little floaty and using the N64 controller. I just can't. I stuck it out. I didn't go and use a Pro controller at any point. I stuck it out with the N64 controller because it's the only way you had to play it back in the day. So I just stuck it out and I did it. But definitely it could feel, sort of the movement can feel a little floaty even in a Kirby game. So I would say they could have tightened that up a little bit. But still, to the gameplay, I thought the big sort of unique thing they had to this is when you're Kirbying, you sort of, take in that swallow an enemy. I don't want to say swallow, but you swallow an enemy. You actually do swallow. Think about it. You have this pink ball that it's like a blob. He just swallows you whole. He just swallows you whole and just uses your powers. It's like, why don't you just swallow Mario and become Mario? Yeah. I don't know. It's so weird to think that this is actually a Nintendo character.
Yeah. I mean, that's what he does in Smash Brothers, right? That's like his main thing.
I know.
You can swallow anybody up and take their ability.
You have 7 abilities that you can obtain, which are ice, fire, needle, electric, stone, bomb, and cutter. Cutter is what they call, you could sort of turn your face into a boomerang and throw it. The stone ability is the worst and most useless ability ever because you just turn into a stone and you don't move.
Well, I guess it's good if enemies are trying to attack you, right? You're basically just turn into a untouchable object, right? You're just like a rock.
I know, but at some point you have to move.
Well,
at some point you have to use offense.
Yeah, well, you gotta time it out when all the bullets and everyone's like backed off. You're like, all right, time to strike.
But the unique thing about this game, which made it kind of cool, and I don't believe they've used it in any other games, is and now you can combine powers of 2 enemies and you can mix and match. And because you have 7 different base abilities, you can mix and match up to 49 different combinations.
See, I was gonna say, because like the initial list seemed pretty small. Even like The Super Nintendo one and the Nintendo one had more than that, I think. But the fact that you can combine the things together, I think, kind of makes up for it. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's still it's like a risk reward system as well, because you have to inhale an enemy, swallow them, obtain their power, sort of give up the power, because once you like sort of when you hold down the B button, you give up the power, it turns into like a star, and then you have to time it right to throw that star at another enemy, which will combine and turn into a combination star, which you have to then inhale and swallow it. So there have been times where I say, oh, I want to do a combination here, and I miss, and then that ability is just gone.
Oh shoot.
So there is a little risk reward, but for the most part, it is sort of easy to do. And I love the fact that you can go back. So I did make it in later levels after I did beat the game. I didn't get the regular. I didn't get the big ending because I didn't get all the crystal shards. But once you get to the later levels, they get a little bit difficult. I'm not saying the game is difficult at all, but there's, obviously the first couple of levels are or a couple of worlds with the different levels are supremely easy. But when you get sort of
easy for
to the
Kirby or easy for just in general?
In general.
Okay.
But when you get sort of to the later worlds with the later stages, they get a slight bit challenging, right? You can go back. What I would do is I would go back to the easy world, mix and match the combinations that I think I need to use in the other world, and then get out of that and go back. So you can do that, just you can do in like Super Mario World, right? Yeah. Like you go to Super Mario World, go to one of the easy levels, get the feather, get the power ups, and then get out of that. You hit select, get out of that level, and go back to the level you're trying to beat. So you can do the same thing like that in Kirby. So, and again, normal Kirby, normal health bar, and you need to eat food. I love it. You need to inhale food that scatter all around the levels to sort of, replenish your health, just like in any other Kirby game. I always thought that was fascinating in Kirby games, though. They actually put it as food. And I mean, like cake, cookies, meat on a bone. I mean, listen, in a vacuum, if I told you all these things, you'd be like, this is like a horror game. But no, it's a cutesy, cute-em-up sort of platformer.
It certainly could be. Yeah, it certainly could be.
Yeah. The music is great, fantastic in this game. Simple and catchy. It matches the levels. Some of them were renditions of older Kirby levels. I mean, older Kirby games, other Kirby games. There were different renditions from the older ones in here as well. But definitely, I could listen to I'm not a person that likes to listen to video game soundtracks often, but if I did, this would be on my playlist as well.
Okay.
I would say, does this game hold up today? I would say if you like Kirby games, then you'll like this game. I mean, it's the origin. What's the origin from what we know from recent Kirby games? It's not hard at all. Right. Even if it's a little floaty, if you're going to play it on a Nintendo Online system, on the online service, use the Pro Controller. Don't be like me and use the N64 controller. Yeah. Use the Pro Controller.
Don't be like Dan and play hard mode.
No, that was the hard mode for an easy game. I probably could have beat it I could have probably beat it quicker if I'd have used the Pro Controller. I actually may try to do that. This did come out during the time of Metacritic. Metacritic score of the time was 77. It had 14 positive reviews, 7 mixed, and 1 negative. 1 negative, and the user score was 81. The highest score I found on this was from Gaming Age, and they gave it a 91. They said it was the most fantastic 3D or / 2.5D platformer of the time. And the worst score came from my favorite, Electric Playground of the time.
Oh, Jesus.
This wasn't a written review. This was actually in the video, and I did see the video a long time ago. They gave it a 45.
Wow. 45 out of 100?
45 out of 100, yes.
Oof. Damn.
Basically, I couldn't find the video. I know I seen the video. I couldn't find which video they had it in. But if I recall, they did say something about it took forever to make Kirby N64. But truth be told, after this formulaic instantly forgettable cartridge. Nobody likes to start whining about how long it takes the old pink Pudge to make its return. They'll pass on it. And that was actually, I think, quoted from Tommy Tallarico. I know he hates cutesy games. He always hated Nintendo games because they were so cartoony.
The aesthetic didn't vibe with him, which understandable.
He wanted more realistic games of the, at the time he wanted Nintendo to go sort of more realistic and leave the sort of kiddie stuff behind. Funny enough, as a side note, Electric Playground did not like both Tommy Tallarico and Victor Lucas did not like Smash Brothers. They thought it was ridiculous. It was like they thought it was ridiculous. And look at it now. Look at it now.
I do remember that. Yeah, I do remember that. Listen, sometimes you have a bad take and it doesn't age well. And
I know.
In this day and age of the internet, it's out there and you can't scrub it. So be very careful about what you say. You want to get a spicy, go after it, but yeah, I mean that's out there.
So what would I score this game? I would give this game a solid 8.
Okay.
Definitely 8 out of 10.
Okay.
And if you want to buy this game, you can get this game card only. It's really hard to get complete inbox N64 games. I'm pretty sure if you want a complete inbox with in perfect condition, it's probably gonna cost you a few $100. But if you want it loose, you can get it for $46.97.
That's not bad. That's like a low to mid. It's kind of in that mid tier price. That's not too bad. Now you said that if you would continue to play this game, you wouldn't be using the N64 controller. Are you gonna complete it? Are you gonna take it to the end?
I mean,
well,
I already beat it.
I mean, are you gonna go back and get all of the stars and get the good ending? Is what I'm saying. Are you gonna try and Gerard the completionist it?
I listen. I give respect to Gerard.
He's a beast.
He has all my respect, and all the people who love the complete games. I am not a completionist person. I can care less.
Yeah. And I guess the big prize you get from doing all that isn't necessarily worth it either. The juice isn't worth the squeeze.
No. I mean, again, like I'm not a completionist at all by any means. If I really want to see the ending, at this point in time, I could just Google it. I can just find it on YouTube. I don't need to actually do it myself.
Not the same.
No, listen, it's not the same. But listen, I will recommend if you're a Kirby lover, if you love easy games, if you need something easy to jump in and jump out of, especially with Nintendo Online system, you can easily jump in. You can jump in this and try to do it. And the only thing I don't understand is why Nintendo doesn't have the rewind feature for the Nintendo 64 games. This is the only thing they don't have the rewind feature for.
Yeah,
you can do the rewind feature in every other game for any other system that they have up on there, except for N64. It just doesn't make any sense to me.
They certainly should. They certainly should.
There's no excuse for it. I'm sorry. All right, Dave, tell me all about The Legend of Zelda: Oracle of Ages. I'm actually curious because I do own this game. I've never played this game before.
Really? Oh, shoot. So I actually have this game complete in box from back in the day in very good condition. So this is my OG copy from way back when. I still have my old save on there from when I got it. I almost like 100%ed it. I had almost all the stars. I was at the end of the game. I didn't realize I was that far along. I thought I got stuck somewhere, but I took this game all the way to the end. So I was like, oh, well, this time around I got to do a whole new playthrough, right? I got to start from the beginning and see how it is. And, oh boy, it took me a few tries to get this game working. I will say that. I tried one of the 2 Game Boy Colors that I own, and they didn't even turn on. So I'm like, maybe it needs fresher batteries. Still didn't turn on. So I think I'm going to have to open it up and mess with it a little bit and see what's up. And I tried the other Game Boy Color, and it was still having issues. Then I had to break out the cleaning card I got, the 1-up cleaning card. So I busted that out. I cleaned a couple of games because I was trying a bunch of stuff to see what was good. And then I ended up on Oracle of Ages. So I cleaned all the pins, and that actually worked really well. And then I'm like, wait a minute. I might as well play it on the best available hardware if I'm gonna play this and make it a decent experience, because I don't think the Game Boy Color had backlight, right? The original Game Boy definitely didn't have backlight.
No, they definitely didn't have it.
The Game Boy Color didn't have backlight. Game Boy Advance and the Advance SP had backlight. Oh, well, yeah. Well, the Game Boy Advance didn't. Game Boy Advance SP had backlight. So I was like, well, let me go ahead and play this on the best available hardware. So I busted out my Game Boy Advance SP. It worked right away, which was great. The form factor, I think, is not as good as the GBA, the original GBA. I like the kind of widescreen feel of it, but you don't get a built-in backlight unless you mod it. So I was like, all right. So obviously I played this on the Game Boy Advance SP. So that's just a little backstory to me getting into this game. I had to do a little bit of work, which was fine. It was only like a half an hour worth of struggle, and then I was able to start playing the game. But this originally came out in Japan, February 27th, 2001. Came out in North America, May 13th, 2001, which was right around, if not right after, the launch of the Game Boy Advance in North America, which was kind of interesting. And then it came out in Europe a little bit later, October 5th, 2001. Developed by Capcom. It's one of the first non-Nintendo developed... Well, actually, I guess there was a lot of them, but this is one of the first ones that I remembered turning it on. It was like, Capcom? Yeah, Capcom. And it's Capcom with an asterisk. I learned a little bit about this, too. Obviously, it's published by Nintendo. They own the IP. And it was released on the Game Boy Color. It is a Zelda game, which is an action-adventure style game. This is top-down, right? Because it's older hardware, so it's not any... doesn't have any 3D elements to it. So I said this was developed by Capcom, right? Technically, it was developed by Flagship.
Whoa,
okay. Which is a game developer that was funded by Nintendo, Sega, and Capcom, respectively. So, yeah. And Flagship, I took a look at, and they helped with developing games like Resident Evil 2, Kirby and the Amazing Mirror, and Legend of Zelda: The Minish Cap, just to name a few. So, they're pretty prolific. I think they still may be around. It doesn't actually say anywhere in the intro that Flagship is involved. They just say Capcom. So I thought that was kind of interesting. One cool thing about this, one of many cool things about this, is that Oracle of Ages was released alongside Oracle of Seasons, right? And you can kind of think of them like Pokemon Red and Pokemon Blue. So it's more than that, because they're actually different adventures in different lands with different mechanics. The game engine and the sprites and a lot of that stuff is shared between them, but you go through completely different dungeons. You have different items and equipment that you can pick up. It's a different story, but they are linked together. And if you had 2 Game Boy Colors at the time or 2 Game Boy Advances, you could do it with that, with a link cable. When you link the 2 together, you could trade rings. There's a whole ring mechanic. There's a ton of rings. There's like 50 or 60 different rings that you can find and get them appraised. And, you know, they all do like different things. Sometimes you'll take half damage from spikes, or you'll be able to, not take knockback damage, or you gain extra life from hearts or whatever. There's all these like cool things you can get for them. And I think some of the rings you could only get by doing the transfer, which was kind of interesting. So that was kind of cool. I think, they very much cribbed off of what Pokemon did, and the trading aspects of those Pokemon games, and they brought it into Zelda. I think it worked really well. One other thing about the background of this is that Yoshiki Akamoto, hopefully I'm saying that name right, he actually he was part of Flagship, which is like their screenwriting subsidiary of Capcom. He actually proposed making, I guess, like a new version of the original Legend of Zelda for the Game Boy Color. So he had a lunch or dinner date with Shigeru Miyamoto and proposed to proposed to make a game for the Game Boy Color, Miyamoto came back and said, "Give me 6. Give me 6 games." 2 of them were supposed to be based on earlier installments. I'm assuming either 1 or 2, maybe the third one on the Super Nintendo, and then 4 original entries. And Akamoto kind of wanted to do them like one after the other to get them out like really quick, and they would all kind of tie into each other. Obviously, we only got 2 of those.
Just so you know, real quick, Flagship in 2007 was sort of closed by Capcom, but everybody from this article that I'm reading, everybody got to keep their jobs.
Okay, so they got folded back into Capcom, basically.
They got folded back into the Capcom, but they closed in 2007.
Right. Yeah, so this was a little bit different, the way the game was built out. Shigeru Miyamoto is most famous for putting gameplay first and story second, which kind of makes sense, because if you look at any of the Zelda or Mario games, they're very light on story, and they have amazing gameplay, right? And that's really kind of the core of it, and the story is kind of I don't want to say like an afterthought, but like a little bit, it's really about the gameplay, right? This cool gameplay mechanic. Because Flagship is most notably like a screenwriting company, they put the story first. All right, so there's like kind of some cool aspects about this game that I guess more than Link's Awakening, more than Zelda 1 and Zelda 2 for sure, more than Zelda 3. There's really a lot of backstories, there's a lot of characters. There's a whole opening scene which kind of is bigger than most Zelda games. All right, so they like really kind of get into it. And one other note, they made 2 choose your own adventure books from Scholastic in both October 2001 and January 2002, based off ages and seasons. So I have to get out there and see if I can find copies of those, because that'd be like kind of awesome. So a basic rundown of the story, because it can get a little heavy and there are a lot of characters involved, but basically Link ends up in this weird land. He's transported to Labyrinth, which I think is the first and last time that we ever hear or see Labyrinth, right? Just like in Link's Awakening, right? When like Link ended up on the shores of whatever island it is, and it was like, this is a whole new land. This is Hyrule.
Yeah, but it was all a dream.
Well,
it was all a dream.
I know. He was just reading Word Up magazine.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, spoilers for that game, but yes, the whole island turned out to be a dream, which is really weird. So
that's why you got Mario. That's why you got Mario, Super Mario enemies, like, right? Because it was all a dream, it wasn't real. He made them up. Yeah, true.
There are. I don't know if there's as many or any at all. They do have side-scrolling elements, which I'll get into in a little bit, but they don't really have the Goombas anymore. They don't really have any of those like chain chomps or anything like that, so they kind of get rid of that stuff. But it does star Impa, right? Impa was from the original, like she's the old lady, right? And she's the one who's in trouble. Link has to go save her. Yada yada yada. They stumble across Naru, which is one of the 3 spirits. I forget if it's courage, wisdom, or power, but so they do have characters from the original line and from Hyrule and whatnot who appear here on this completely different island, which is weird, but I mean, they make it work. And then basically it was like all a trick. The evil villain Verin was trapped inside trapped inside Impa, takes Naru away, and this disrupts the flow of time, and then you have to basically reset the flow of time, right? And you go to this spirit tree, this Mako tree, which is kind of like the tree from Ocarina, right? And you talk to the tree, and the tree is like, oh no, I'm being destroyed. So you have to go to the past, and then you see in the past, there's the tiny little tree, because the tree hasn't grown to where it is, and you're like, the tree sets you on your quest, and you have to find the different essences, I think there's 6 essences in the whole entire game. You have to find all the essences, you get those essences, and you can fight Verin, and then you restore the flow of time. So immediately, there's like so much more plot. But I mean, it's not just about that. Obviously, it's about the gameplay. This is through and through a Link game, a Zelda game, right? It has all the trappings of a regular Zelda game. It does follow a lot of the gameplay from Link's Awakening. I want to assume it uses the same engine because it's the same Link sprite. There are some enemies that are reused, right? The same sprites and whatever. They're obviously now in the Game Boy Color palette. So, you know, they have been updated slightly, but it's the same sprites, plus like a bunch of new ones. So I think there was a lot of coordination between Nintendo and the team at Capcom to, you know, share assets and whatnot and like put all this stuff together. There are some new bits to this game. Like, obviously, like I said, there's the past and the present, and you do travel between the two often. There's even one dungeon where you have to travel into the past and then back to the present to solve the dungeon, which I thought was kind of cool. And things are like different, you know. There's like the world is very different in like both timelines. You get completely different towns and NPCs, or some of them are the same, like the giant Mako tree, but they're different, right? Because now it's a little tiny tree in the past. And like one of the cool things is you get these seeds. You can drop these things called Gasha seeds in soft soil, right? You'll find soft soil everywhere, right? And you have to reveal it. Oh, and you can drop a seed in there, and you can get seeds just by traveling around. You can buy them in the shops and the whatever. And if you plant it and you let it grow enough, then you'll get something like cool out of it, right? And I think it only happens once. So if you plant it in one spot and you get the cool thing from it, if you try and plant it again, the tree will grow again, but you won't get the cool thing again. So you can only do out a limited number of times. But that was like kind of a new mechanic. He gets a giant seed bag this time around with like 5 different seeds. There's like fire seeds. There's the like Pegasus seeds, which make you go like super fast. There's the mystery seeds, which awaken the owl and transform some enemies too. Like I think the little like demon ball things that like flop around, I think can turn into fairies with the mystery seeds. So that's kind of cool, and you kind of get those like across your adventure. You do get special animals in this one. There's 3 of them. I think there's a raccoon, a bear, and there's a third one. And you come across them every now and again. You use them to solve a puzzle, and then later on you can get a flute, which allows you to call that animal at will to solve like certain puzzles. So there'll be things that like, well, you need this kind of flying bear thing to get over long gaps, or you need the like the boxing kangaroo to like, you know, punch out some stuff to like make a path for you. So that's kind of cool. And they have the traditional like 8 dungeons, right? You get a key item in each dungeon. They have the mini bosses that return from the Link's Awakening, which once you beat the mini boss, then you get a warp back to the beginning of the level, which I think is kind of cool. And the dungeons are pretty neat. They all have their own like theme to it. One of them has like a little like minecart thing where you can like ride around in this minecart. You can flip switches to change the tracks around and all that. So they definitely did the work. It's a lot of familiar, but it's also new. I mean, it's 8 brand new dungeons. There's like a bunch of new items in there. Some of them return, like the like you know, the hook shot and the power bracelet, the Rock's feather, right? Those are all like classics that came back from the GBC one, right? It's good that you can jump again, and you do get that ability pretty early on, which is kind of neat. I will say that partially because of the limited buttons, right? Same amount of buttons as the Game Boy, the original Game Boy. The only difference is now it's in color. You know, you get, I don't know, 54 different colors or whatever on the screen. And don't get me wrong, graphics are great and all that, this and that, but the lack of the buttons makes it hard to handle the items and the weapons, right? If you thought it was bad with the N64 Zelda, at least you could like map 3 of the items to the C stick, right? And then
it was bad with Link's Awakening.
Yeah. So,
right.
And you had a dedicated attack button, right? You don't have a dedicated attack button. Your sword is an item that you can swap out, which is cool, right? Because you can have like any combination of 2 items together. But like, I kept switching between things all the, because you have to. Sometimes you need to use the ember seeds to like burn down parts of the forest. Sometimes you need your shield to flip over enemies. Then you got to switch back to your sword to hit the enemy. And oh my god, it's terrible. It's terrible. So basically, what I'm saying is, be thankful for modern control schemes, modern controllers that have tons of buttons. You don't have to deal with all this stuff, right?
They need to bring this. They need to bring it back, like on the Switch or something, where we can have a remake, just like they did Link's Awakening, right? Like have a remake where you can use it on the Switch.
I think it really just needs the use of the extra buttons, and maybe like an L and R button to like fast cycle through items, right? Kind of like what they did with some of the Zelda mods, right? You can use extra buttons to switch between items. But anyway, graphics are top notch. I mean, it is a Game Boy Color game, but man, did they look good, right? Nice colors, nice aesthetics. All the areas are unique enough, right? You know, and you get kind of the amber mountains, and you get the lush green forests, and the it's really good. Like, you know, when you're entering a new area. The color palette's super, super pleasing. Everything is really good. So thumbs up on that. Soundtrack is great. Classic Game Boy sound in effect here. You only have a limited amount of channels. I think there's only 4 channels maybe on the Game Boy, but they make it work. And in the past, it has the classic overworld music from Zelda 1. So that's kind of nice. The present doesn't, but the past has the classic Game Boy sound. And then I think everything else is original compositions, which is nice. And they're good. You know, they're bangers. You know, they're all good. They're all good. And if I had to say if this game holds up today, it 100% holds up today. With the asterisk being the constant weapon and item switching is a pain, and you do it a lot. It's a limitation of the hardware and whatever at the time, but the core gameplay loop is amazing. It's great. There's a lot of cool stuff to do. You know, you can really go around the world and, explore and find all this cool stuff and go on all these side quests. And you can do it in the present and in the past, right? And a lot of the puzzles require you like flipping between worlds and all that. So, super cool. Super cool.
But what really excited you about playing this game? Like, before you played it, you had to be excited about playing this game. Like, what made you like, yeah, I got to get this done for this episode?
I was excited to see if the game was as good as I remember it. If that makes any sense. Because I remember it being a banger. Does. And it was 100% a banger through and through. Like, I had a damn good time with it.
Did you beat it back in the day when you first played it?
I did. Yeah. No, I have my old save on there. It's got I'm missing 1 heart, and I think I have everything else. It's super good. And then in terms of the reviews go, it's funny because this game came out, I think, a little bit after the Kirby game came out, right? You said the Kirby game came out in 2000, right?
The Kirby game came out in June of 2000.
Okay. So I tried to look around for reviews on this. I looked on Metacritic. It wasn't on Metacritic.
So I will say I looked on Metacritic. When I saw that you didn't have any reviews, then I was like, it had to be on Metacritic. I checked Metacritic. They had this I think they had like the best, like, they ranked all the Zelda games, like, and this was sort of like, I don't remember how many Zelda games there are, maybe like 70 or whatever the number was. It was sort of in the high numbers. Like, it was in the beginning.
Oh, yeah.
So like, if there was 100 Zelda games, I think they had like 97, right?
It's
like,
just Yeah.
They had it rated. They had it rated at all the Zelda games, but they had no Metacritic scores that I could find.
Right. And I'm like, all right, maybe not Oracle of Ages. Maybe just look up Legend of Zelda, or just look up Zelda. And they had these like bullshit mobile Zelda games for like iOS or Android that were definitely not licensed, and they had entries. Why is there no Oracle of Ages and Seasons? Right? It was obviously like there is reviews out there for it. You could call them, you could put them together. You're sleeping, Metacritic. So I did find one review from IGN, and they gave it 10 out of 10. And you know what? I would more or less agree.
Oh, so real quick, so I'm on it now. Metacritic has it ranked at number 10 of 19. No, so they have it as a 92. Metacritic has it as a 92.
Okay. Yeah.
They don't have any each in particular scores, but Metacritic themselves, I guess, gave this a 92.
Maybe, yeah. Yeah, there had to have been some sort of deliberation. I
know I said 97. I meant 90. I meant 92. They ranked Metacritic themselves. They have every Zelda game ranked, and they have it 92 with an asterisk. So I don't know what that means because I can't click on it.
Oh, well, maybe it's like, asterisk tied to seasons maybe or something, but
yes, actually it does have it as they rank them together.
Yeah, that makes sense. That makes sense.
Yes.
Yeah, I still have yet to play Seasons. I meant to pick it up at some point in time, never got around to it, so I definitely want to do that and see what that game's all about. But I think that game also highly rated. I mean, they're similar but different enough. Like the dungeons are all different, so it's like it's two separate Zelda games, which is like super cool. Now, if I had to give this game a rating, and this is the most important rating for it, I'm gonna have to give it a 9.5.
Wow.
I'm gonna knock off 0.5 for the damn item switching. All right, it's not much.
Well, that is because of the hardware, not because of anything else other than the hardware.
I know, but it's still not great. I mean, it is what it is, right? You can say, well, the N64 controller is bad, but that's a hardware issue, right? The game is still good, but it's just the hardware that makes it kind of tough. The controller is the thing. So, yeah, I mean, that's only why it's a 0.5 off. All right.
Okay.
I feel like there's other ways you could have done it. You could have maybe, I don't know, used the select button to hot swap. I don't know. I'm sure there's something.
That's a good point. You could have used you could have had it where you could swap between more items with the select button, like a because you're not. I mean, what do you use the select button for unless you're in the menu, right?
The select button. Well, the start button gets you to your item list. The select button gets you to the map. So it is definitely used. And when you hit start and select together, it takes you to the save, quit, or continue screen. So
I would have had. I mean, right now, modern games, you hit start, and you automatically go to the map in options, right? You just flip through. They go to you go to the map, you go into the store, you go to the items, you go to options. You
could have had that all under. You could have had that all under one button
on the start. Yeah, so if you hit start, you automatically pause the game. You're in the map, and you can flip through different things, right? So they could have did it that way.
Yeah. I mean, it's not the worst thing in the world. You learn to work with it, but you do change items a lot. Even going from room to room when you're in dungeons, it's oh. So, but anyway, if you want to get this game now, you can get it on Lukey. You can get it loose on Lukey for $67.97. It is a little bit pricey. And I think it's well worth the price. All right? This game is solid. I'm assuming Seasons is about the same. They came out at the same time. I'm sure the rarity is about the same. All right? I don't necessarily think one is better than the other, so the other price of the other game is probably about the same on that. If you can find them, pick them up, because I think they're pretty solid.
Okay. Mm-hmm. You're right. No, well... Actually, they have The Legend of Zelda Oracle of Seasons at $100.
Loose or complete?
loose.
Wow. All right. Jeez. Maybe it is more
A
money.
little bit more expensive.
Yeah. Damn. All right.
All right.
Well, okay. Well, that's it. That is episode 31 of the books, folks. And we want to thank you guys for listening to the show, for liking, commenting, doing all the good stuff that you guys do. If you want to interact with us, and we know that you do, you can find us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube at Rated G for Gamers. So please listen, like, rate, review, and subscribe. And as always,
keep gaming.